Money can affect almost any relationship you're in, and to talk about that, we have our money person, Laura Southall. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here, always.
It's always good to see you. So let's say a couple, they're planning to make a big move. They're going to get married or move in together or have a child together. And I bet most of them have never talked about money.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's so taboo in our society that people don't talk about it, and they don't even talk about it with their partner. So it's such an important factor. Studies show that 68% of Canadian divorced couples cite money as the #1 cause for their divorce, which is crazy.
And most people would never, if you said, what do you think the #1 cause, that probably wouldn't have come up.
I know.
Wow.
I know. And I'm sure there's multiple factors for divorce, but money is definitely in there. So to go back to your question there, couples that are starting out with whatever new situation, I would say the first thing that you should do is start talking about your goals. And everything else flows from your goals. So if you're on track with your goals with your partner, then you can line up your money to achieve those goals, and then you're both on the same page. So that's the first thing. You want to be on the same page with your goals. But then the next thing is to communicate. So first you start communicating about your goals, but then you need to communicate about every other aspect around money. And that's bills, groceries, spending habits, all kinds of things. What your childhood was like, what you learned from your parents, any financial trauma you might have had. Some people have had a job loss or a divorce that have really, really traumatized them in terms of how they handle their money, or at least changed how they've handled their money. So first you want to talk about goals, then you want to communicate, and then I would say you want to have a level of respect for your partner, that we all come from different places. We all have different backgrounds, and we need to understand each other. You're not going to be on the exact same page as your partner about money, and if you can just respect where they came from, and they can respect where you came from, then usually you can get your shared values and goals together.
Sometimes I think you're madly in love with this person, and you're tending to overlook things. But let's say you're one who happily brown bags it to lunch for lunch every day, and you're careful. You don't waste any money, and you like to see that bank account getting bigger. And you start to notice that, oh, well, I don't think I can go away on that weekend. That's pretty expensive for me. And he says, oh, I'll just put it on my card. Right. These are clearly, you have different values somehow.
Yeah.
And I would wonder what the future would be for a couple like that.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, when you are dating someone, that's a time to observe, to take stock of how that person handles their money and whether it's going to be compatible with you. And if it's not, I would say it's time for a conversation, because sometimes people don't even realize the way they're behaving around money. So you start with a conversation, and why do you do that? And what was modeled in your childhood? And this is what I did. I've seen some couples where one person was very much the spender and one person was very much the saver, but they've managed to build a compromise where the saver takes care of all the investments and the spender lets the saver, or draws out the saver, and lets them get a little more free with their money. And it's a very good balance. So just because someone's not exactly the same as you, it doesn't mean they're the wrong fit, but it's definitely time to start talking about it.
And I think it's going out and buying something without consulting the other, because it is going to affect both of you. And that leads me to the next question. Should you split your finances? Like, should you keep your own money?
Right.
I married, I can tell you, it was 1969 is when I got married.
Right.
And at the time, I had nothing.
Yeah.
He had debt. So we were starting from zero, which was not unusual when you're that young.
Yeah.
And we never had separate finances. There were no finances to have. So I never knew what it was to cash a paycheck. I handed it over. I endorsed it over. Always,
Right.
always, always, for all the years we were married. It worked for us, but what about, is it a good idea to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it depends on the situation. I get asked that question a lot. Women are more independent and are earning more than they have ever. We also have a very high divorce rate, and that's complicated with money. So I hesitate to give one specific answer. I feel like there's 4 sort of different options that you can explore as a couple when it comes to putting your money together. And the first is your traditional, we have one bank account. All the money goes in, all the bills get paid, and the spending is done out of that, which can work very well for some people. It doesn't allow for any independent choice. You're accountable to your partner.
Right.
But if you're on the same page, then maybe that's not an issue. Sort of the second option that's a spin-off of that is that you have your joint bank account where all the bills are paid, but you each have separate bank accounts where you get a discretionary amount. Maybe it's $200 a month, maybe it's $500 a month, that you can spend on anything and you're not accountable to anyone. So if my husband wants to go out and buy himself some new clothes, or I want to buy myself something, we can do that and we're not accountable to each other. We don't do that, but some people do. And then the third option is separate bank accounts. So your income comes into your own bank account, and then you pay into the household or the joint account, and you split the costs of the household. So I've seen that one done very successfully. The downside to that one is somebody might earn more than somebody else. So to split 50-50 is not always equitable. So I've seen the percentages done as well. So if one person earns 50% more than the other, they contribute 50% more to the household account. So 4 options, they're all good. There's no bad choice. It's about working through with your partner what works best for you and what you're more comfortable with.
It sounds like more like it's goals, is that you share the same goal. Is
Yeah.
it to save the down payment? Is it to have that nest egg to retire on? What are the goals? And if you share that goal.
It's often too that not always are you on the exact same goal as your partner, but maybe respecting that both goals are valid. So if one person values paying down the mortgage and the other person values travel, then can you accomplish both of those at the same time and work together to accomplish both of those? It also is important to remember that you can set this all up, but life changes. Sometimes people lose jobs, they change jobs, they stay at home with kids, they go back to school. So it's a constant communication, and it's really important to set aside time, usually before a problem comes up, so you're not talking in a heated spot, but once a month or once a week, whatever works best for you, you talk about your money, bills that are coming up, goals that you're working on, and just checking in with your partner so that when changes come, you can adjust.
What happens the other way? We talked about having enough money coming in. What happens if you get a windfall, an inheritance? You win some money. You lose your job, you get a big buyout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question because some of those have some strings attached. So an inheritance, it's worth mentioning that if you receive an inheritance and you keep it in your own name, and then you were to divorce, that money stays with you. If you put it into the joint family account or you pay off the family mortgage with it, that money is part of the divorce settlement and gets split 50-50. So it is important to talk to an advisor or a lawyer or an accountant when you receive something large like that to just discuss all of the options.
It's a nice problem to have.
It is.
That and so many others. Thank you so much. So good seeing you again.
Great to be here.
And it's tax season. Yay.
So fun.
Come back again?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.